We have breaking news to go over today as the New York Mets just robbed the MLB in a massive trade where they sent away one of the most beloved players on the team for an elite talent who is going to help them in so many ways, while also it shows exactly what their plans are going to look like for the next couple of months, weeks, the entire free agency period in regards to subsequent moves. Things have become a lot more clear, and also David Stearns' confidence in making some signings has also been made quite clear, and we're going to break all that down. But before we jump into it, guys, real quick, if you are part of that 69% that's not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to Mets Digest so you don't miss a single update on the New York Mets. We have videos coming out daily that you don't want to miss out on. Usually we're on this stuff a little bit earlier. I'm sorry, I was not home, but we are back, and guys, there is a lot to talk about with the Mets right now, as the team just moved on from one of their most beloved players in their history, as Jeff Passan broke the news that the New York Mets and Texas Rangers are finalizing a trade that would send second baseman Marcus Semien to the Mets and outfielder Brandon Nimmo to the Rangers. This was a deal that ultimately got done after Brandon Nimmo did have to decide if he was going to be willing to waive that no trade clause. It took him days to decide, and ultimately Nimmo did decide to leave the New York Mets, going to the Texas Rangers in an absolute blockbuster trade. This is one of the biggest trades we've seen in a couple months now in the MLB, and obviously for a lot of Mets fans out there, it does hurt. I mean, Nimmo has been with this team forever, it feels like now. He grew up a Met, is one of the 11 Met players to play over 1,000 games in the New York Mets uniform. So with everything surrounding this, it's a huge move. The Mets do trade away Nimmo, who had a 2.9 WAR last season, a 262 batting average. A very, very good outfielder, can really play all over the outfield wherever you need him to. At a 760 OPS, an OPS plus of 114. He gave the Mets a decade of great years, and now ultimately has decided to waive that no trade clause to go play for the Rangers, where they desperately do need some outfield help. While the Mets do acquire Marcus Semien here. Now, Semien, he is a bit older. He's 35 years old, but still an excellent fielder. Has not lost a step at all. Still to 3.3 WAR last season. He only hit with a 230 batting average, and the OPS was below what it usually is. But he fits really well with the Mets. The World Series champion and 5-time All-Star has bounced around the MLB a little bit now between the Athletics, the Blue Jays, obviously the Texas Rangers, and now he lands in New York. The Mets also at the same time, one of the reasons why David Stearns ultimately did this deal was there was some financial implications behind it. The Mets, they were really locked in to that very long contract with Brandon Nimmo, which would have kept him on the team till he was 38 years old, but it keeps him under contract till he's 38 years old. So because of that, especially with him now being on the wrong side of 30, and with there being a whole lot of discussions surrounding how good is Brandon Nimmo going to stay long term, when the best thing about him is his fielding, and obviously as age becomes more of a situation with Nimmo, that contract is not going to age well. So with that in mind, it really does make sense why the Mets ultimately went out and did this deal. Now, Mets fans overall are not thrilled about this trade by any means, partially because they just love Brandon Nimmo, also because the down year that Semien had. But as SNY mentioned, a look back at Brandon Nimmo's Mets career in a glance, he was drafted out of Cheyenne, Wyoming by the Mets with the 13th overall pick in 2011, called up to the big leagues in 2016, hit a 263 with 17 home runs and an 886 OPS in 2018, signed an 8-year, $162 million contract with the Mets after the 2022 season. He hit his first career postseason home run against the Phillies in Game 2 of the 2024 NLDS and tied the Mets single-game RBI record with 9 in a game against the Nationals on April 28th of this year. Nimmo has done a whole lot for the Mets, but now the Mets move on, and there have been some questions what ultimately made this deal happen, and Gary Cohen did say that everything he's ever heard about Marcus Semien tells me that he's going to be a breath of fresh air in that clubhouse because he is a very well-regarded person in his own right. That certainly will change the nature of things by his presence rather than Brandon's. I think that you try and bring high-character people in. The Mets have traded one, and they're bringing in another one, so obviously, it's not like Nimmo isn't a high-character guy. Of course he is, but At the same time, the Mets now do get someone who's a consummate pro, who's won a World Series, who will be a good veteran to have around. And also, it does make you start to understand what more of these moves are going to be. Now that we know this has happened, we know Stearns is going to be very aggressive in the outfield market. He has to be. There's no other way around it. I mean, as we see it get mentioned right here by Michael Mariano, the guys that are now options for the Mets to fill the now Brandon Nimmo-sized hole in that outfield are Cody Bellinger, Jarren Duran, Luis Robert Jr., Byron Buxton, Harrison Bader, and Kyle Tucker. Now, he's not expecting that it's Tucker, though I imagine the Mets will have interest. We know the Mets are interested in Cody Bellinger. I wouldn't be shocked if Buxton gets a lot of looks here as well. Luis Robert, Harrison Bader, obviously Bader spent time with the Mets and also did have a good year last year. Luis Robert Jr. makes some sense, but also had a bit of a down, has been on a downward trend for a little bit now. Jarren Duran's very interesting, brings elite fielding onto the table, which will be huge. Excellent base runner as well. So he would replace Brandon Nimmo in a few different ways that would be helpful, and Duran, obviously a very talented player. The Mets, they're going to need to add one of these guys for sure for this outfield that just has a hole now. There's no other way around it. The outfield just is not... It needs help. We knew that we wanted to add to the outfield, and now it becomes a must. Soto is expected to be out there again. Why would he not be? It's not like he's becoming a DH yet. He would be playing in right field, Soto, that is. So now, obviously, you sort of just figure out when Carson Bench is going to be ready. That's going to have an impact and everything. And then on top of that, you also just have to find an outfielder for that other spot, and really for the two spots, because Bench won't be starting the season with the Mets most likely, though it's possible. We look at the contract of Semien. He's got 3 years left on his deal, so that is part of this reason as well. The Mets get out of a contract that would have kept them, that would have been on their books for a while. Obviously, Semien is making a good chunk of money here, but Brandon Nimmo was going to be making a lot up until he was 37 years old, and he doesn't really project to age super well in the game, so maybe I'm wrong, but at the same time, it does make a whole lot of sense why the Mets ultimately did decide to do this deal. Another thing that people have not really mentioned thus far, though, is the fact that this has a huge impact on Jeff McNeil. McNeil had a 2.0 WAR last season at 243 batting average with a 746 OPS. He is almost certainly gone now. There's no way around it. Jeff McNeil is going to get traded, or just, we know that stuff, all the noise surrounding McNeil and a trade has been going on forever, but now this is the opportune time to trade him. You have your new second baseman, because Semien's stepping in and playing second base, and yeah, McNeil can go to third base, you could do that, it's totally reasonable, but it does feel like McNeil's going to get traded, and I would not be surprised if it is for an outfielder. That is my expectation. They just traded an outfielder for a second baseman. Now it's time to trade a second baseman for an outfielder, effectively. Now, you can throw McNeil in the outfield as well. He obviously can play in either of those corners, but at the same time, you do start to wonder if that's the best move. It feels like McNeil's time with the Mets is coming to an end. It's been an up and down ride, but that is really where we see everything going right now. And there's going to be a whole lot more updates to go over in the coming days as well, guys. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single New York Mets update. Like this video, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I will catch you later.